Doom 2016 marked a triumphant return to form for it. It was fast-paced, aggressive, and relentless as hell, unlike anything I'd played before. Doom Eternal aims to deliver on that promise, and then some. New demons, new weapons, and new ways to rip and tear. There's a lot to be excited about. I've spent the last few days compiling information from every article, interview, gameplay, and trailer to bring you 101 things you need to know about the game. Let's go ahead and dive in. In terms of story, the game takes place 2 years after the events of Doom 2016. The Earth is on the brink of annihilation. It's being consumed completely by demons. And of course, it's up to the Doomslayer to save humanity from destruction. By the time the Doomslayer arrives, 60% of the Earth is already taken over by demonic corruption. And this is not only a story beat, this is a mechanic in the game. It's tracked by a meter in the top right part of the screen and can also be seen on the map in-game. While the campaign of Doom 2016 was very focused and singular, there's a lot more going on this time around. There's a power structure between the angels and demons that is revealed to us and comes into conflict with the Doomslayer. The Doomslayer will come in contact with the Knight Sentinels, an order of holy knights that protected the city of Argent, one of which is named the Betrayer. They once fought against the armies of Hell eons ago and are led by King Novik, another character we will meet. Some of them are still alive, and we will encounter them throughout the events of Doom Eternal. We will also come across the leader of the Argenta and the main antagonist of Doom Eternal, Khan Maker, or the Supreme Maker. We know very little about her at this time, but she does warn the Doomslayer of his actions and the consequences that will follow. Although the exact story beats of Doom Eternal are not known, we do know that there are some bureaucratic figures involved, including King Novik, that will not interfere with Hell's invasion of Earth because of some ancient law, some policy which prevents them from interfering in any way, which leaves the Doomslayer predictably on his own. In the opening moments of the game, on Earth, we will witness the remnants of giant mechs who were fighting titans scattered across the Earth. These bones and remains are just there as a huge set piece, but also there's a remote possibility of being able to control one of these mechs at some point. And it looks like we'll need to, because at least one of these titans is still roaming around. Head of id Software Marty Stratton has explained on numerous occasions that the overall focus for Doom Eternal is on lore. It's not just about making a single experience, a single story within this game. It's about building a larger Doom universe, introducing more pieces of lore, more plot points, and more things to draw from and expand upon. And with that focus on lore, one of the goals was to make sure that they brought players to places they had never seen before. Entirely new scenarios, entirely new destinations. Where Doom 2016 was focused just on Mars and Hell and different destinations between the two, Doom Eternal will take us to multiple places, including Hell on Earth, the Sentinel homeworld, an Arctic cultist base, and we'll also get to visit Heaven. With updated technology and this game running on id Tech 7, the levels within Doom Eternal are twice as big as they were in Doom 2016. And the focus for the team was really on presenting these huge, big set pieces. On to gameplay. Two of the primary methods for collecting resources in the form of glory killing for health and using your chainsaw to collect ammo are returning from Doom 2016. With Eternal, it has introduced a third way to collect resources in the form of fire. Now you can light demons on fire to force them to drop armor for the Slayer. You can do this by using the new flamethrower equipment or any other means of lighting demons on fire to generate armor and help manage your resources. While Doom 2016 got a lot of great reception, one of the complaints was that it relied too heavily on arenas and forcing you into a small space to do battle. Now they've updated the arena design to allow the Slayer to create space, give more room to take breaths and find crucial pickups. Since the playable spaces have been expanded, it also had to give the Slayer new movement mechanics, and those came in the form of double jumps, being able to swing on monkey bars, and also using a dash ability like we saw in Rage 2. The dash is also crucial in combat as you can use it to dodge attacks or close your distance on enemies. The Slayer also has the ability to climb and scale walls. Anytime there's some chipped away concrete with horizontal lines or divots, the Slayer is able to latch on and climb in any direction. This is very useful for traversing levels and also used to complete puzzles throughout the game. According to game creative director Hugo Martin, the new mobility mechanics allows for harder to find secrets and expanded scope, and it makes the game more engaging outside of combat. We should expect to find random floating platforms and other video game contrivances because the focus is on pushing the player towards exploring these new huge areas and giving you a breath, kind of a break away from the action. As many will notice, the UI and items are very colorful, very bright in Doom Eternal compared to 2016, so that players will be able to see them through the absolute chaos of combat. While it could have focused on a more realistic and appropriate set of colors and audio cues, these were essential tools to signal to players and convey information in the heat of battle. You don't want to have to be searching around for armor. It's right there, it's glowing bright green. One part of that colorful UI will be the temporary power-ups that you'll find throughout levels that will refresh things like your dash cooldown and allow you to string together multiple jumps and dashes for more complex puzzling. A tiny little detail is when you pick up power-ups in Doom Eternal, you can actually see the Slayer's face reflected off of the visor because they make his eyes glow. It's a really cool little detail that I don't think a lot of people have noticed. One such pickup is the new mechanic Spare Lives. You'll find these in 1-up tokens scattered throughout the map with the Doomslayer's helmet. These allow you a retry. It allows you to respawn right where you were instead of dying and having to kill a bunch of demons again at a checkpoint. So it just keeps you in the action if you have spare lives. In Doom 2016, if you fall off the map, you die and you respawn at a checkpoint. But Doom Eternal has a lot of platforming, and if you fail one of those puzzles and fall off the map, all you lose is a little bit of health and you get a very generous respawn at the nearest ledge instead of dying and appearing at a checkpoint. Going along with the video game contrivances, in some levels there are some really big buttons or switches that are green that'll activate things like axes that can swing down and chop demons to death, a lot of environmental interaction. Within every single level of Eternal are secret combat encounters, and these spawn demons which you are tasked with killing within a certain time limit. It's like a quick time trial. Completing one of these rewards you with 1 weapon point which you can use on upgrades and mods. Similar to Doom 2016, you'll find Slayer gates throughout the world which require keys that you have to find, and unlocking these gives you a portal to a new destination where, once again, you have to survive an onslaught of demons. A new mechanic coming to Doom Eternal is Invasion Mode, which lets you enter other players' games as a playable demon. Unfortunately, this will not be on release. It'll come after launch with a free update. In another Dark Souls-inspired mechanic, you can also be invaded by an empowered demon, which is an AI. It's not player-controlled, but it's a demon that's killed another player in their campaign. So again, very similar to Dark Souls. And I know this will annoy people. Just in case you're wondering, they have said that you can disable these options. These are not required. Every time you finish a level in Eternal, you are given a grade on your performance, such as how many combat encounters you finished, how many Slayer gates you found and went through, and also how many secret combat encounters you uncovered. Each of these will earn you a weapon point that you can use to customize your arsenal. Also at the end of each level is an exploration tracker, which shows you an itemized list of which items you found in the level and which ones you missed. It makes it very easy to go back and gather things that you might have missed in your first playthrough. Just like everything else in Doom Eternal, weapons have been expanded greatly. Just like 2016, they have attachments in the form of mods. But now these mods have upgrade paths of their own. You can spend your weapon points that we talked about upgrading these individual mods, and each one also has a unique mastery option at the end that gives you a very unique power. A brand new weapon that we've seen a little bit of footage on is the Ballista. This is a long-range precision weapon which spears demons with an explosive bolt. You can already tell this is going to be a super fun weapon to utilize the physics of this game and pin demons to walls and other objects. The rocket launcher returns, obviously, and this time around it's way stronger, but at the sacrifice of higher self-damage and lower rate of fire. The idea here is that you can't just run around and spam this thing like you could in Doom 2016. Your shots have to be more deliberate and more calculated. And the mods that are on this thing are remote detonation, which returns, as well as a lock-on burst fire attachment. The very first weapon revealed, of course, was the super shotgun. There's no way that wasn't going to be an Eternal, but this time around it has a dual-pronged attachment called the meat hook. This functions as a grappling hook, allowing you to attach onto demons using the little icon between the crosshairs and fly around the map, use it as mobility, and use it to close the gap between enemies. This time around, the idea was to make the super shotgun only effective in super close range, and so this forces weapon switching and doesn't allow you to lean on it the entire time. Returning also is the combat shotgun, which obviously will have a bit more range than the super shotgun. This time around, the mods are sticky bombs, which can fire up to 3 bombs at a time, as well as a fully automatic mode. A sort of new weapon is the heavy cannon, which really replaces the heavy assault rifle from 2016. And the mods on this one are the precision bolt for semi-automatic high-powered precision rounds, and the micro missiles, which have heat-seeking missiles. Also returning in place of the plasma gun is the plasma rifle, but this time around it's got more of the classic bulky design from the original games from the 90s. This is the go-to weapon when enemies are carrying energy shields because they will literally explode when shot with a plasma rifle. Mods for this one include the Heat Blast, which allows you to propel enemies backwards in a short-range burst, and the Microwave Beam, which locks on and melts enemies. Another new weapon is the Crucible Sword. As we know from Doom 2016, the Crucible was an artifact, but Samuel Hayden takes it away from the Doomslayer at the very end and reveals it to be a sword. Unfortunately, we have no more information on this thing, how it works, whether you're able to equip it, or it's more of a one-time power weapon. The Doomslayer was completely redesigned for Eternal to add more equipment options and make him the most deadly version of any Doomslayer we've seen so far. The first addition to the Praetor suit is the Arm Blade, which is a retractable knife that comes out of the Doomslayer's left gauntlet. This thing adds a new element of speed and sheer brutality for glory kills, and you'll be seeing this thing a lot when you're glory killing for health. Another new piece of equipment is the shoulder-mounted flamethrower called Flame Belch. This feeds into the new armor resource mechanic, and you can use it to force enemies to drop armor shards whenever you have it on cooldown, and enemies will drop even more armor if you kill them while using the flamethrower. On the other shoulder is a mounted grenade launcher, and obviously this thing fires frags, but it can also be modified to fire ice bombs as well. And this adds a new freezing mechanic that gives you a little bit of time to kind of figure out what you're doing, but it's not something you can lean on to make the game easier. The last piece of new equipment functions like an ability. It's called Blood Punch, and this charges over time with your glory kills. The more you're glory killing, the easier, the more quickly you'll get to Blood Punch, which releases a shockwave AoE attack that destroys enemies of groups in melee range. For the fans of the classic Doom games from the 90s, it has also added, just like they had in 2016, the option to have a centered weapon mode, so you can have the gun in the very middle of the screen, just like it used to be. In terms of difficulty, game director Hugo Martin explained that the team had to approach it from an entirely different perspective this time, because in Doom 2016, enemy behavior changed drastically between the levels. They got more accurate as the level was higher, and it forced players to relearn how to play. Instead, Doom Eternal is going to use scaling so that enemy behavior is more consistent. For example, if you're on an easier mode, enemies are still going to use all of their behavior and mechanics, but they'll take turns, and every now and then they'll use their heavier stuff. but if you're on Nightmare, enemies will use their strongest attacks simultaneously, relentlessly, without mercy. Furthermore, difficulty will tune variables like how much ammo is on the field, how much weapon damage you're doing, how many enemies are appearing. And the idea is to force the player to play Doom the right way, to constantly be thinking, constantly be on their feet, so it's constantly engaging. According to id, Doom Eternal is a 22+ hour long experience, and that's not even accounting for all of the secrets and other hidden items that you can collect. A lot of the optional content will lengthen the experience. Doom Eternal is going to be an absolutely massive game, and we know this because according to id, you're gonna see more in the first 2 to 3 levels of this game than in the entirety of Doom 2016. That's how packed, how full of content every single level is going to be. From previews and early hands-on, we've heard a lot about the design philosophy behind Eternal, and one of the things that comes up constantly is the fact that they want it to feel like a combat puzzle. They want to give players various tools and teach them how to use them properly so that they can make the right decisions. The most common comparison of the Doom dance is chess. It feels like chess. They want players to understand which pieces do what, including the demons. They are their own chess pieces to navigate, and reacting to their behavior while also making decisions and moving your own chess pieces. Hugo Martin has reinforced the idea that it's about teaching and educating players, and getting upgrades and learning more about how you're playing will feel like martial arts. You'll start with a white belt, for example, and minute after minute, you'll get some stripes and learn more, and eventually upgrade to a blue belt, and that will continue and repeat until a point where you are an absolute master slayer. With the addition of burning enemies to gain armor, really pushes the idea of resource management. That is a core philosophy of the combat design. You're constantly worrying about which resources you have, your ammo, your health, your armor, utilizing the methods in order to gain more resources in a way that makes sense. Id has hammered home the fact that Doom Eternal is supposed to be a difficult video game. It's designed to teach you, and oftentimes through death. But if you die, they want to motivate players to learn what they did wrong, really show them what they did wrong so people can understand why they died and then be shown this is how you get it right. Shifting gears now to customization. Returning from Doom 2016 are the Runes and Praetor Suit perk systems. First off, Runes are slotted upgrades that you'll find throughout the game. There are 9 of them, and you can have up to 3 active at any time. We have all 9 of those and their descriptions. So quick rapid fire, we have Seek and Destroy, which extends your glory kill range. Chrono Strike slows down time in midair. Savagery has faster glory kills. Air Control gives you better movement control in midair. Equipment Fiend gives you killing enemies with equipment reduces equipment recharge time. Punch and Reeve allows enemies killed with Blood Punch to drop health. Saving Throw gives you an extra chance to survive a death blow and slow down time. Dazed and Confused increases enemy stagger time, and Blood Fueled gives you a speed boost after glory killing. Once again, we'll be upgrading our Praetor suit with perks that boost things like resistances and enhance the basic abilities. There are 20 of these perks broken down into 5 types. We only have a few of them. One type is called Environment, with perks including Hazard Protection, which has your rad suit take less damage from toxic sludge and toxic water. Thicker Skin makes you immune to damage from barrel explosions. Regenerating barrels means exploding barrels respawn after a short time. And Explosive Pinatas, which means barrels leave behind ammo when destroyed. Another category is Frag Grenade, with the perks Faster Frag Cooldown, which reduces the cooldown of frags. Combustion Concussion emits a second larger explosion that falters demons. Scatter Bomb makes bombs burst out of demons on grenade kill, and Frag Stock Up gives you an extra grenade charge before needing to refill. One more method of customization is Sentinel Crystals, which can be found throughout the game and applied to your suit, which let you route power to upgrade your health, armor, or ammo. These are interesting because they unlock bonus abilities like extending your flame duration for the Flame Belch, or extending your resource collection range like a magnet. We've spent a lot of time already talking about Doom, but we still haven't talked about demons, so let's change that. There are twice as many types of demons as Doom 2016. They've upgraded favorites, they've reimagined classics from Doom 2, and created all new types. This is not a complete list, but we're going to start with the Pain Elemental, which is returning from Doom 2. This is a combination of the Cacodemon from Doom 2016, but with horns and more teeth like a predator. It has this grumpy bull rush attack that you have to watch out for, and it's been described as having the personality of a grumpy old man. The design is for this thing to be a super heavy, it throws lost souls at you, and it's a bit of a bullet sponge, but that's an important chess piece on the field. It creates openings for the lesser fodder type enemies. Also returning from Doom 2 is the Arachnotron, and the turret used to be below its brain. They actually moved it to the top and infused it with some UAC tech from the new game. And this time it shoots grenades out of its side canisters for AoE. And you have to watch out because it's very mobile. This can stick to walls and ceilings. It kind of plays like a mobile turret. According to director Hugo Martin, you're supposed to hate this thing. It's really trained for you to take it out immediately because it's so powerful and you need to prioritize it with a precise weapon to knock off that turret. The Archvile is returning from Doom 2, and this is essentially the same design as the Summoner from 2016, so it functions the same way as the original. This is sort of an homage type of demon. It's designed to be elusive and make you move around because he spawns in more demons, more zombies, so it becomes a priority. You can really hear and see this thing immediately. It also puts up a firewall and has a fire wave move, so this is an enemy that people are really gonna hate. The Hellified Soldier is back. It was in 2016 and Doom 2, but it's got the more classic Doom 2 look. They changed the design to look more like the green-haired type, and this time it's a little bit tougher, but it's still fodder for you to farm. The problem is you can't get really close to the Hellified Soldier because it has a very strong melee. That feeds into the design for the rest of the game. Really, all enemies force you to set up close range engagements, so you can't just hone in on them and destroy them with the super shotgun. A brand new demon for the Doom series is Whiplash, and this one is described as a real pain in the ass. It's the first female sort of demon design. It slithers around on the ground. It gets very low and tries to flank around and then rake you with its whips. It's very powerful, and it pushes mobility as a way to play the game more than anything because you have to get away immediately when this thing comes on the field. And it also forces you to use certain weapons that are better at tracking and even lean on those freezing abilities because it's so fast. Another new demon is Tentacles, and these are described as a pest level sort of ambient demon, and it challenges players in between the huge arena scripted fights. These are hiding underwater or in wormholes, kind of like whack-a-mole, so it's designed to keep you thinking when you're out of those combat scenarios and engaged and on your toes looking out for something that could hurt you. Another new demon is the Marauder. This is described as the Doomslayer's arch nemesis. It's equal, just as powerful. And so this is something you're gonna encounter a few times. It kind of sounds like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. You're gonna have to get rid of absolutely every other demon on the field before facing this thing because that's how much focus it requires. It has an axe that's been used on a lot of the promotional material. It looks like an absolute badass. The Doom Hunter is a brand new demon coming in Eternal, and this is a very unique design, kind of pushing the envelope in terms of how these demons look and how easily you can identify them. It's absolutely huge and floats around on a hover tank that has powerful attacks of its own, but it's very modular because you can knock the Doom Hunter off of its sled, which disables all of those attacks and forces it to transform and evolve and fly around. And once it does, you'll have to worry about swooping down and knocking you with its chainsaw. So a very unique, interesting new enemy. The final demon we're going to talk about is also a new one, and it's called the Carcass. And this one is unique in that it was designed to take the rocket launcher out of the hands of players because it's just so powerful. It's usually your best option, and people leaned on it way too much in Doom 2016. And the way it's gonna do that is by throwing up a shield and rushing up as close as possible so that you kill yourself with your own rockets. So it really forces you to think twice about blowing yourself up and even you might lean into using movement mechanics to get around that shield so you can blow them up from behind. Moving on, there's a new hub area in Doom Eternal called the Fortress of Doom, which is located in a space station that overlooks Earth. This thing functions as a hub, so you're going to come here to select your missions and travel through various portals, which will take you to the different worlds, different levels, and different areas of the game. But it's not only that, because aboard the ship contains various upgrades which are locked behind doors, and those doors can be unlocked by finding Sentinel batteries, which are scattered throughout levels, sort of hidden from plain sight. You'll need to use these to power up the station and open those doors. Aside from the doors, there's also a very powerful weapon that you can unlock using Empyrean keys, which are earned through the Slayer Gate challenges with each level. I don't know what you guys think, but it sounds like the BFG to me. Allegedly, there's also a giant mech Praetor suit being constructed inside the Fortress of Doom, the same kind that we see fighting the Titans on Earth. So perhaps we'll be able to unlock this thing and use it at some point. Let's take a moment to talk about the technology behind Doom Eternal, because this is the first game to run on id's latest iteration of their engine, id Tech 7, which allows for high quality detail at very high frame rates. The verbiage that's being used and repeated in marketing materials and in interviews is that id Tech 7 delivers 10 times the amount of detail and even better texture fidelity than ever at 60 plus frames per second. Marty Stratton and the engine team at id recognized the criticism of textures in Doom 2016. And it's that sometimes they were blurry in larger levels because of a technology called mega textures. You can observe this same issue in games like Wolfenstein and Rage 2 that were running on id Tech 6. So they decided to get rid of mega textures and rely more on instance-based rendering, which allows for finer detail. Going into the development of Eternal, they knew they wanted a better destruction system for their demons. So they came up with a brand new system that gives a visual representation of the damage done and really utilizes the power of their engine. And this comes in the form of the new destructible demon system. And we get a lot of examples of this in the gameplay. You can do things like disable heavy attacks by shooting the Arachnotron's tail gun, which will fall off, or you can shoot the Mancubus's arms off, which disables those guns. You can also do things like throw a grenade into the Cacodemon's mouth for an instant glory kill. All of those things are visually represented by parts flying off, losing limbs, losing certain parts of their body, which was not in the game before. When Marty Stratton was asked about the possibility of ray tracing in Doom Eternal, he said that it was tested and their team was really excited about utilizing it for lighting and other applications, but that they still needed to finish the game. They still wanted to focus on polishing the experience and making sure everything was up to snuff. But they are planning to revisit ray tracing after launch. Most new games these days support HDR right out of the box, but id Software games were a bit unique because they really haven't up until now. So Doom Eternal will be a first for a modern id Software game to support HDR on launch. Since we are at the end of a console generation with the Xbox Series X and PS5 coming out this year, id is actively looking at how to implement Doom Eternal on next generation platforms. It's not something that they already know about, but it's something that's in the works and that will be resolved at some point. So we can expect them to maybe release an update, since we know that with the Series X, Xbox One versions of the game will run. Perhaps it'll just come in the form of an update instead of forcing players to buy an entirely new game. Doom 2016 was ported to the Switch after launch, and id was so impressed with the work that they decided to contract the same company, Panic Button, to bring Eternal to the Switch. However, it's going to come after launch because they needed extra time, just like id did with the base game. It's time to talk about multiplayer, which is called Battle Mode in Doom Eternal. This is a one Slayer versus two Demons multiplayer mode developed internally at id instead of externally at Certain Affinity like they did with Doom 2016. With regards to the reactions to Doom 2016's multiplayer, which weren't great, id felt and realized that they played it safe with the multiplayer mode. It was very formulaic and it didn't innovate enough versus other arena battle multiplayer games. And this time around, they're not making the same mistake. They're doing something that's unique that makes sense for Doom. However, they realize why people love Doom 2016. It was for the campaign. So battle mode in Eternal is not a primary pillar of the game. But the idea is for players to come and try out battle mode after completing the campaign, since that's the core of the experience where you really learn how to play the game. But the hope is players jump in after completing the story mode, and it's much more complex than the trailers seem to show. Battle mode will launch with 5 playable demons and 6 maps. The demons are Revenant, which is the versatile and agile demon. It has a jetpack and a dash move, and then its attacks are rockets and a barrage-heavy special move. Next is the Pain Elemental, which has the ability to fly around the maps and track the Slayer. It also has a soul shield to protect itself, but it's very vulnerable when not using that. The Mancubus is designed as a heavy. It's got heavy cannons, flamethrowers, tons of health, but it also has smoke bombs to provide cover or escape. You could also play as the Archvile, which can summon flames and shoots lost souls in addition to summoning demons. Last playable demon at launch is, of course, the Marauder, the arch nemesis, arch rival of the Doomslayer. Not only will demons be able to use their unique moves, but they can drop hazards for the Slayer and summon AI demons just like the campaign, which is controlled through a system called the Summoning Wheel. Over the course of the match, the demons can always see the outline of the player Slayer unless they decide to break line of sight for a second, which breaks that outline and lets the Slayer disappear and flank around. But the idea is to force demons to stay and work together. On the other end, for the Slayer, that player is fully loaded with all guns, mods, and equipment for ultimate customization, and the idea is to juggle the 2-player demons in some form or fashion, try to separate them and manage their resources, use glory kills on those fodder enemies for health, chainsaw them for ammo, and torch them for armor. Every single map also has portals, which only the Slayer can use to flank around. And again, the main strategy is to isolate the demons by using these methods. There's also jump pads that are scattered around because the Slayer is relatively immobile from the demon side of things in those players. So you've also got monkey bars for added mobility. In any given round, if it happens that one demon dies, the Slayer has 20 seconds for respawn to kill the other one in order to win that round. But if the Slayer fails, that dead demon will respawn and rejoin the fight with half health. Battle mode is a multi-round multiplayer game mode, so players will be able to choose upgrades between rounds, like demons being able to summon the Baron of Hell, or the Slayer being able to use the BFG. Finally, there is planned post-launch content for free after Doom Eternal comes out. So they will release more playable demons beyond the 5 that we mentioned, and also there will be some more maps to play around it. Let's talk about microtransactions, because recently in the news, game director Hugo Martin talked a lot about them and confirmed that there is no store in Doom Eternal and no microtransactions of any kind. He explained that experience unlocks do not involve player abilities or content that impacts the gameplay. The only thing that experience unlocks is cosmetic, which again, doesn't impact gameplay. We know through all of the previews and gameplay that things that impact gameplay involve tokens or weapon points or things of that nature, runes, Praetor suit, that stuff has nothing to do with the experience. So the unlockables for cosmetics just look cool. They have no impact on gameplay. Martin clarified further that Doom Eternal is a $60 product. It's a $60 game. It's not a free-to-play model or a mobile game that you're going to get on your phone. They're trying to deliver a complete experience for that $60 that you paid to grab it and own it in the first place. And then finally, he reiterated that unlocking skins is a completely optional experience, optional part of the game that you can completely ignore. It has no impact, and once again, all cosmetics are free. You won't be paying for any additional content in Doom Eternal at all. Last but not least, Doom Eternal launches on March 20th for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. That was 101 things you need to know about Doom Eternal, and all of this information would not be possible without the hard work of others, so I provided links to every single source down in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.